Good morning, everybody. This is Lucian Smith in for Paul Gallo here on the Gallo Radio Show on SuperTalk, Mississippi. We've got with us on the line the one and only Congressman Trent Kelly. How you doing this morning, Congressman?
Good morning, Lucian. How are you?
I am doing well. Thank you for being on with us.
Yes, sir. This is the opening day of the Neshoba County Fair, and I grew up less than 5 miles from there, so getting ready to head down sometime this afternoon and go to my probably like 58th one. I don't know, however old I am. I don't remember. I was so young when I went the first time.
I didn't realize that's where you were from, that area, Congressman.
Grew up less than 5 miles from there. It was part of my life.
It's such a special place and such a unique piece of Americana that's just ours. It's one of my favorite things to do every year.
Absolutely, but I know that's not you. You got plenty of people to talk about that. I know we got a lot to talk about here today, Lucian.
Tell me, I want to get to everything in D.C., but I'd like to start with the Republican National Convention. I assume you were a delegate and up in Milwaukee for it.
Absolutely, man. It was electric. I've not seen us that unified. I remember the 84 and 88 ones, but it has to be as unified as we are as a party since going back to Reagan and his term. So it was just electric, great policies, great speakers, and just, listen, we were talking about what we're going to do, not about the other folks, and I think that's so important. People are so tired of all this rhetoric. What they want to hear is, what are we going to do for the American people? And
Amen.
We've already seen what Donald Trump's going to do. He's going to make us a much better, safer, richer, everybody does better place to live.
I think that's right, and I think you're also right. If we can keep our message between now and November being about the things we're going to do, we're going to win, because what Republicans do, what we say we are going to do, is what Americans want to have happen at the federal level.
Absolutely. I mean, when you talk about it, look at the border. Border under Trump, the safest border we've had in years, to the most people we've ever had come through. We got foreign terrorists that we know coming through, people on terrorist watch lists, people coming through by the millions, with no checks and balances whatsoever. If you want to talk about the economy, we were exporting fossil fuels again. We were a powerhouse in the energy section, which made business better. And the first thing they did is shut down the pipeline, let Russia create theirs, which is funding the war in Ukraine. You know, they want to talk about we're not sending any aid, but they're actually funding it because they will not let us produce our American energy. I mean, on and on and on. Policing, you go from them supporting everything in the world that has to do with defund the police or shut down the police or let everybody out of jail, even violent people, because they've been so abused, to we believe in protecting our citizens and the innocent and fair trials for those who were charged with criminal attempts. But once they're charged and once they're convicted, then they got to serve. So it's on and on and on, Lucian.
It's been really interesting how many, what I think of as sort of left-leaning business people, Elon Musk, a lot of Silicon Valley types, who I am confident voted for Biden. A lot of them we know donated money to Biden 4 years ago, who've now come out and said that they're supporting Trump and that they're, I think Elon Musk has pledged maybe $40 million a month to a super PAC to help get Republicans out to vote for Trump. Really speaks to exactly what you're saying, is just how badly run the country has been under President Biden and Vice President Harris.
Yeah, I mean, we're not even talking about inflation yet. Just remember this. Kamala Harris, she was the deciding vote in a 50-50 Senate. She came in and passed the Inflation Creation Act, which we have had record inflation. They like to name stuff the opposite of what it is, but you just tell me your groceries are cheaper today than before that act. You tell me gas is cheaper than it was before that act. You tell me your energy prices are cheaper. Listen, you can't afford to go to the grocery store. Things cost 3 times as much, it seems, and people can't afford to live. She was the deciding vote in what caused that. And so that's one of the things I look at, Lucian, is when she has, and just look at the meeting yesterday with Netanyahu. 3 hours with President Biden, supposed to meet 3 hours or 2 hours with President Trump today. 40 minutes with her, and she comes out of there saying, ceasefire, supporting those folks who were waving those Palestinian and Hamas flags in D.C. and spray painting our statues. Listen, that's the difference in the candidates.
And some of those people she was supportive of, the White House's own spokesman admitted those were probably protests being funded by the Iranians.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Listen, when you're flying a Hamas flag and you're saying Hamas is coming and you're here in America, I have to believe you're Hamas. I think you're a terrorist at that point. But I'm definitely not supporting you and supporting your policies, which is what Vice President Harris is doing right now. She is saying, ceasefire. We had a ceasefire on October 7th before Hamas slaughtered almost 3,000 people, men, women, and children, and killed babies in front. Listen, Netanyahu did a wonderful job in delivering and just stating the facts the other day, as opposed to Kamala, who's falling in on all the, let's cease fire. They didn't mean to do that.
And I saw that she made some comments about her concern about civilian casualties, and obviously no one is supportive of civilian casualties, but she obscures the fact that Hamas deliberately uses civilians as shields so that these numbers will be inflated to inflame people who otherwise would be inclined to support Israel.
Yeah, and listen, and they ignore the fact that Hamas slaughtered 3,000 or 2,000, the number they slaughtered that many innocent civilians, including chopping off babies' heads, burning babies alive, chopping off men's heads, killing parents in front of children, children in front of parents. They're the ones who killed innocent civilians. That is the genocide, not the opposite.
Amen. He really did do a great job. I thought it was telling that the vice president didn't show up to preside over the joint session.
Can you imagine if I had a debate here in Mississippi and I said, I've got to go meet with some of my old college fraternity. I'm too busy to be at something. And that's a debate. That's not with a national head leader who is engaged in a full-fledged war. Just think of the signal they sent. And their number two didn't come either. They sent Ben Cardin, who's a great guy. But they had to find somebody who's retiring to come. And listen, if you watch the speech, go back and watch it. They sit for most of the thing. They never stand up and clap. Listen, they are supportive of the policies of Hamas and Iran and the terrorists, not of America, not of Israel, not of law and order and justice.
And was it Rashida Tlaib who had the sort of protest sign she was holding up during the whole thing?
Absolutely. She should be censored, and hopefully someone will bring that to the floor for a censure. It's not the first time they're in trouble, but listen, and they had several that were wearing their T-shirts, and they got them out early. It was like 5, but listen, the response from the crowd there was overwhelming, other than those Democrats who sat over there and wouldn't clap and wouldn't stand up unless they said something about Biden.
Yeah, that's just extraordinary and extraordinarily disrespectful. I mean, even if you want to disagree with the policies, the decisions that the Prime Minister of Israel have made, you're a member of Congress and a foreign head of government is there. Complain to the press. Don't hold up signs and embarrass yourself. But I assume that's something they do just because, she's now getting talked about all over the country because she acted like a fool.
It is, and listen, and at the end of the day, one of the things we have to remember is this thing is about her passing the Inflation Creation Act, she being the deciding vote, and then Joe Biden put her in charge of the border in the spring of 21, and she has not been down there but once, and it was not like really to the border, not to the places. And she was in charge of the policies to stop the migration, and all it has done is gotten worse and worse and worse. And I just have to say, you have to look at the results of what someone is charged with doing and how they've done it.
Well, and you're absolutely right. And during the time that the Biden-Harris administration's been in charge of the border, we've had more illegals come into the state, come into the country than the entire population of the state of Mississippi. It's absurd.
Absolutely. And, and I want to be real clear. I am for immigration. I am for legal immigration.
Absolutely.
I am for people coming here the right way and doing it the right way. But I am not for giving these people who have cheated and broken the law and broken rules and who have they don't have America's best interests at heart, coming in here and going to the front of the line. And that's what they want to do because they feel like that's going to be voters for them. And that's just our border is a disaster under this current administration.
Well, and it's a national security risk too, because we don't know who those people are. I mean, at this point, if you're ISIS, Al Qaeda, whatever bad actor, you're not trying to fly into New York. You're flying into Mexico and coming up.
Absolutely, and I'm on some of those committees that get to hear the inside story on that. But I would just say people should believe Director Ray when he says we're in one of the most dangerous situations that we've been in for terrorist acts in America, and that is because of all the people coming across the border, especially those who mean us harm.
General, we're coming up on a break. Can you stick with us for one more segment?
Absolutely.
Hey, thank you, y'all. This is Lucian Smith on with Congressman Trent Kelly here on SuperTalk Radio. With us on the line still is Congressman Trent Kelly from Mississippi's 1st Congressional District. Congressman, I want to talk for a second about the Secret Service Director. Can you believe that it took her that long to resign?
Listen, she should have resigned immediately. It's a failure. Every other Secret Service director in recent memory who has had an incident happen that they were responsible for resigned. She didn't, refused, said she accepted responsibility, but really didn't, kept trying to blame it on someone else. Never visited the site, at least not before she went to the hearing there on Capitol Hill. It was an epic failure. It was so reckless in the lack of planning, the lack of execution. And listen, I'm a military guy and understand this stuff, but you can assign responsibility, but you cannot assign accountability. And literally, like, that was in the inner cordon, and they can try to blame that on local police or local authorities and all that. But at the end of the day, that's in the inner cordon. That should have been Secret Service folks on that roof with at least oversight. Isn't it amazing that an 18, 19-year-old kid who tries to kill a president has a drone up doing surveillance, and we have the best-funded law enforcement agency in the world that does not have a drone on site? Isn't that amazing?
It's unbelievable. And she never could give failure. There was no explanation. That was part of what I found so bothersome. There was never, in that oversight hearing, you never got some sort of cogent explanation from her on why it happened. That why those choices were made.
Lucian, in the law, I was an old district attorney, and some acts are so negligent and reckless that they're considered intentional.
Right.
That's how bad that the Secret Service plan there was. It was so reckless and negligent that it was intentional in nature by the way that they performed their duty. There is no way you allow someone on a rooftop, an elevated platform, within 130 yards of the former president of the United States, current candidate for president, and that you allow them 2 minutes or in excess of 2 minutes when you know they're out there and they do nothing to stop this guy.
And you have, as I appreciate it, spectators and local law enforcement that were signaling that something strange was going on there, that they'd seen him with a rangefinder and whatnot, and you didn't, that you would think that they would have stopped the event or sent somebody to find the guy.
Well, I was watching news yesterday, and I was listening to them talk about, they'll take up your vape stick, which I don't vape, but they'll take up your vape stick, they'll take up your lipstick case, purse is too big, but we're going to let a guy walk in with a rangefinder. Think about that. That's crazy. Absolutely. What purpose do you have for a rangefinder at a political rally other than to see how far a target is?
That's right. That's right. And it's also amazing to me that it was so close. I mean, it wasn't like he was on a roof 1,000 yards away. 150 yards is a shot. I mean, a deer hunter would be happy to take.
I'm a deer hunter. If I miss at that range, man, you need to take my rifle away from me.
That's exactly right. It's absurd. The thing I was so struck by in that oversight hearing, it seems to me, and you're obviously the expert here, but so often, especially with the Democrats, when they get in these oversight hearings, it's all about making a political point for the cameras, and whatever the topic is, they're just trying to push their message. When you've got Ro Khanna and AOC grilling a Democratic appointee, something's going on.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, I'm glad she resigned. I don't think she had any options, and it took 11 days or 10 days. She should have resigned long before that, the day of. But, they do that by turning points. I mean, it's like they want to talk about we're a threat to democracy because we actually have a democracy and we vote for our candidate and we nominate our president. And they just anoint theirs, I guess. 14 million votes don't matter. we're not going to go through the process. We're just going to anoint Kamala Harris as our person when the president who is unfit to run for office again. I say he's unfit to serve, but that's something that has to be done another way. But I mean, listen, just anoint him. I mean, no process. Just we say you're the king and you're the king. I mean, how is that democracy?
Yeah, exactly. After they've lectured us, I mean, I remember, and it's been in the last month, CNN running a piece where they went out and interviewed people at a Trump rally and asked them if we were a democracy or not, and people kept saying, oh, well, we're a republic. We elect our leaders, and they then make the choices. And CNN had some dark tone to it about how this was the end of democracy. And now we're being told, well, primary voters don't really matter. Really, it's the delegates who choose the nominee. That's how it works. Don't worry about it.
Well, it's the same thing, Lucian, with political violence. Listen, I had a crazy guy that was spun up by Bernie Sanders try to shoot and kill me and hit police and several others. And then we have the assassination attempt on President Trump. We have over and over where they actually execute political violence, but we're the violent party. I mean, but we're the ones getting shot at. They're the ones shooting, but they're calling us the violent party.
That's exactly
and listen,
right.
There's no place for political violence in anything, and having been on the receiving end of gunfire here in this nation. Listen, they need to tone down their rhetoric, but we are not the party against democracy. We are the party that is for democracy and a republic and a representative form of government, and they just want to put their people in at all costs, and it's all by the elites. They want to call us the elites. They're the elites. They're the one who have the Hollywood actors and the billionaires and the elitists, and they try to turn that around, but we are the party of the people.
Some of this political violence that's coming from the left, it seems to me, and this isn't a good thing, but it's almost inevitable based on their rhetoric. I mean, if they're telling people that we're going to destroy democracy and there'll never be another free, fair election again, it seems to me it's almost inevitable somebody's going to say, "Well, gosh, I got to go kill some of these people because I want to live in a free country."
Well, listen, I've been in Congress for 9 years, and I've never once heard anybody say anything on the Republican side about cutting Social Security or Medicare or Medicaid. Not once. Yet Bernie Sanders, the guy who tried to assassinate me and hit Scalise, that guy right there was spun up because Bernie told him we were going to cut off his Social Security and his Medicare. So that is what spun him up, that crazy rhetoric. And so he felt a call to action to go execute Republicans on a baseball field. It's the same way with this. I don't know what radicalized this guy who decided to shoot the president. It may have just been because he wanted to be famous. But that rhetoric has consequences. It causes people a call to action when you say, it's the end of democracy, we have to do something. People take that literal.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And it is dangerous.
It is very dangerous.
Here, you're close to this, being in Congress. The president, who's running the White House? Because it sure doesn't seem like it's the president of the United States.
This is the third president that I've had contact with, and he has been to the House to meet with Republicans, I think, 0 times. He's been only once or twice. It's been almost 2 years since he's been over to talk to the House side, even the Democratic House side. Listen, I don't know who's running it. It's probably the same advisors and folks, but who knows who's running it? He's definitely not. I mean, his own spokesperson said he works from 10 to 4. Wouldn't you like to have a job where you work 10 to 4 every day? And
Exactly.
That's only 5 days a week because he's on vacation at some place the other times. But 10 to 4, you can't run a nation from 10 to 4. You need, 4 in the morning until 10 at night, maybe.
Well, that's the thing. It's my theory is that it's been kind of you've seen Dianne Feinstein's probably the most recent example of this. These senators who get so old they don't really know what's what, and they start to have decline. You got staffers who walk around. Well, that's not good when it's a member of the U.S. Senate or a member of Congress. But if China invades Taiwan in the middle of the night, somebody's got to wake the president up and see what the choice is. It can't be some 27-year-old staffer making these kind of choices for the country.
I know, but, Lucian, it's worse than that. Think about it. Our Secretary of Defense went and had surgery and was out of the process for almost 72 or 96 hours, and nobody knew where he was. Nobody even knew he was missing.
Yeah, that's just crazy.
Listen, so if they want to talk about how well-run their administration is, one hand's not talking to the other, and there's an elite group of people up there who are unelected who are running this country right now, and I promise you they do not have democracy and a republic and America and our border and all those things. They don't have the right things in mind, but it is not the elected officials in that administration that are running it. It is the unelected bureaucrats.
Well, I hope there'll continue to be a real look at that, an investigation into it, because a lot of people had to know. There have to be a lot of staffers who've known he's not really running it. The vice president, who's now their candidate for president, did she know the president wasn't really all there?
But, the one thing I will say, though, Lucian, as much as I'd like to see him go and as much as I think he's incompetent to run the White House, I actually think if we remove him, we get in a worse spot with what we've got now.
Oh, I agree.
I think elevating Kamala Harris to be president of the United States, we saw with her meeting with Netanyahu. She comes out of that and literally goes after our friends while elevating our enemies. It's
unbelievable. We got about 30 seconds left. Congressman, you got any final thoughts?
I don't, man. I hope to see some of y'all in the Shelby County Fair. If you haven't ever been, you need to go, and if you have, you know why you need to be there.
That's the truth. Well, Congressman Trent Kelly has been our guest. Thank you, Congressman, for taking the time, and thanks for all the good work you do for the people in your district and the state.
Thanks, Lucian.